Yeah, thank you, Lori. Previously, what we covered, you'll remember, in our journey, we saw that we saw them beginning a new section with the Lord of the Sabbath, and we saw that the apostles were being accused of B&E, breaking and eating, breaking the Sabbath by eating grain. We saw that they broke the oral tradition 5 ways, count them 5, simply by eating the grain in the grain field. On Shabbat, they were walking, they were reaping, they were threshing, they were winnowing, and they were storing in their bellies. So we have this story, and you'll remember that Yeshua, when challenged by the Pharisees as to why he allows his disciples to eat of the grain fields on Shabbat, he says to them, Shabbat was made for man, not man for Shabbat. Do we have a problem? There we go. All right. And we looked at the Jewish tradition, and indeed, Sabbath is given to you. You are not given to the Sabbath. That is absolutely very, very clear in rabbinic teaching. So Yeshua punctuates this section. Remember the 2 stories. He's going to have 2 stories. He punctuates the center of these 2 stories. Where the 2 stories meet, we have this statement. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath, claiming authority. Remember when Yeshua says, Son of Man, he's alluding to Daniel 7, chapter 7, verse 14. One like a son of man, a human being, was up in the skies, in the heavens, right with God, and God gives this individual who looks just like a human being dominion and power and glory, etc., etc., and his kingdom will have no end, and he will rule forever and ever. So, when we see Barinash, son of man, that was Aramaic, by the way, no extra charge, we see Yeshua, for those who are hep to the Daniel passage, we see him claiming to be far more than just Messiah. As a side note, I'm not sure if everyone said, it was not widely reported, but nonetheless it was indeed news, and it was very newsworthy. AI, for all you think about AI, it actually is a very helpful tool in some areas. I was talking with my friend, the head of the Hebrew department at DTS about this. I said, did you hear about this? What do you think about this? And yes, it's a real deal. And AI is or can be a superior tool for dating ancient documents than what we have heretofore used as the standard, which is the carbon-14 dating method, which, they've been, since I was in school, carbon-14 was the thing, was standard. That's older technology now, but better than carbon-14 can be contaminated, it can be confused, it can be spoiled, a variety of contaminants, but AI can look at ancient documents, like, for example, they scrutinized the Dead Sea Scroll fragments with AI, and the date that AI came up with based upon the handwriting and a variety of other inputs, they dated the Dead Sea Scrolls a good 200 years earlier than what we had previously believed those Dead Sea Scrolls were dated. Which you say, well, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Actually, not much to do with the price of tea in China, but very, very important for us, because Daniel had always been, Daniel was written, Daniel lived, 6th century. And Daniel had always been the book of Daniel had always been scrutinized by academics because it is so on the nose prophetically. They said this could not possibly be predictive prophecy written 500, 600 years prior to events that are spoken of. It must be written after the events that he's spoken of, and he's going to write about them, quote unquote, prophetically, like Antiochus Epiphanes and the abomination of desolation, et cetera, things going into Hanukkah. But with the new dating, and I think they're going to be standardized, that the dating is going to be standardized. With the new dating of Daniel, they have fragments of copies of Daniel that are now older than when they say Daniel should have been written. So once again, the academics who, in their wisdom, they have become fools, and now they have to explain the fact that they dated the writing of Daniel because they didn't believe in predictive prophecy. They dated the writing of Daniel after the copies of Daniel that we actually already have. So they have been shown up. That's just a little side point, but I think it's very, very important because it reinforces our faith. It certainly reinforces the scholarship. Well, let's continue with our review. We saw that there are several areas, A, B, C, D, E, and F, that Jesus has authority over. We're going to be adding to that list as the book continues. We're only in chapter 3 at this point, and you can see in just 2 chapters how many areas of authority he has experienced. So, and then the second story is very quick. He entered again to the synagogue. A man was there, his hand was withered. They were watching. People are watching him. They're trying to see him. They're trying to get him to mess up royally, to get Jesus to mess up. They're trying to catch him. Gotcha moment. To see if he would heal the withered hand on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. Accuse him of what? Of healing on the Sabbath. He said to the man with the withered hand, that's exactly, Jesus, in their minds, he very unknowingly walks right into their trap. But the question is, who's setting the trap? Who's the trapper? Who's the trappee? He said to the man with the withered hand, get up and come forward. And he said to them, is it lawful to do good or do harm on the Sabbath? Is it lawful, in other words, to save a life or to kill? Asking them a question that they could not answer, because every Jew understood the well-established principle, pekuach nefesh, that saving a life overrides law, certainly overrides oral law. And being sick, while not life-threatening, right? What do they want them to do? Listen, my visiting hours are not on Shabbat. Come back on Monday and maybe you'll get healed. No! When you say a prayer request, somebody gives me a blue slip, what am I supposed to say? Well, I got too many blue slips today. Not a problem, by the way. But I got too many. I'll put yours for Monday, actually Tuesday afternoon. How's that sound? No. When you have a need, you got a headache, I'll pray for you on Thursday afternoon. Right? Send me a reminder. No. You see a need, you meet the need, even on Shabbat. Looking around at them with anger, this is really, no, the goat is kosher. It gets Jesus' goat. Grieved at the hardness of their heart. This is what he's upset about. That's why he's angry. Grieved at the hardness of heart. He said out to the man, stretch out your hand. And he stretched it out, and the hand was restored. The Pharisees went out. They're upset. And they began conspiring with the Herodians against him and as to how they might destroy him. So again, I mentioned last week that nowhere in any rabbinic literature, in any historical documents throughout Jewish history do we have in the same paragraph these two people. I don't know, they could be normally seen in the same room together. They were on opposite ends. You had a pro-monarchy, pro-Herodian monarchy, and you had the Pharisees, and these guys didn't agree on anything, but here they are. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And here we have, for the only time in Jewish history, we have Herodians and Pharisees making common cause. So we begin our next section, understanding that the last section ended with a conspiracy to destroy Yeshua. So we asked the question last week, who is this Jesus? And I suggested that you use your head while also listening to your heart. If Yeshua truly is who he says he is, if he truly possesses the level of authority that he claims, then we must respond. We must follow the example of the disciples and follow him, no matter where he leads. Where will he lead? Let's begin a new section in chapter 3 that I call Son, S-O-N, and C, S-E-A. See what I did there? It's always so clever. Jesus withdrew. Instead of matter of opinion. Jesus withdrew, my opinion. Jesus withdrew to the sea. I would withdraw too if there were groups plotting to kill me. He withdrew to the sea with his disciples. And a giant multitude from Galilee followed, and also from Judea. Right? So he's headquartered, remember, in Galilee, in the area of Capernaum specifically. But here comes not only people from the region, but also from Judea and from Jerusalem and from Idumea and beyond the Jordan and the vicinity of Tyre and Sidon. A great number of people heard all that he was doing, and they came to him. Now, I want to show you very quickly where all these people are coming from and exactly how extraordinary that so many Jewish people are coming. Remember that Jewish people are not just headquartered in Israel. Jewish people are not only in Israel, but they're in the surrounding regions as well, in the diaspora. We've talked about the diaspora before, specifically in the book of Acts, and also, of course, when we went through 1 Peter for many, many months. And so there were Jewish people everywhere. So I don't want you to be confused and think that Gentiles are coming. If Gentiles were coming, believe me, Mark would make a big deal of it. When Gentiles are involved, the gospel authors and Luke, in the book of Acts, they make a big deal about it. These are Jewish people in the diaspora in just Israel, north and south, and in the surrounding region. Here's a map to show you the various different regions. If we look at, let's see if I can get, whoops, there we go. Can you see that dot or only me? You can, oh good, this one works then, this one. Okay, so if we look, we see this is Nazareth, Capernaum is right here, right where my dot is. This is the Sea of Galilee here. This is the Decapolis, this is Roman cities, this is Idumea is down here. So you've got people coming north, south, east, and west. Not just the normal regions where he has been traveling, where he's been headquartering. The entire region is inflamed with curiosity and passion regarding this singular rabbi. The famous rabbi, who in some instances, the infamous rabbi, this miracle worker, this teacher, this healer, this exorcist. Let's some more maps, very exciting. If I were teaching geography, those would be great. But he told the disciples that a boat should stand ready for him because of the crowd, so that they would not crowd him. It's very understandable. They were coming from east, west, north, and south. Not just a home crowd. Right? They're streaming down. They're crossing the border. They're coming to see Jesus. Jesus says, well, we better get out of town. Hire a boat. We can't go too far. It's just a lake after all. Can't go anywhere. But he doesn't really want to get out of town. He just wants a little breathing space because everybody wants to touch him. When you live in a world where you are a known miracle worker and the Jewish expectation is that all you need do is just touch and I'll be healed. When you're living in that kind of world with that kind of expectation and everybody wants to touch you to get something, get a need met, it's not an inordinate request. It's not unthinkable to want a little breathing room. He's not looking to escape, just to breathe. And so he asks Peter, John, and of course, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. They had a fishing business, so they had boats, plenty of boats. So he says, let me have a boat, and we'll put off a little bit from shore, and then people can gather on the land, and I will speak to them. And furthermore, by speaking to them from the boat and allowing the natural acoustic quality of the water to do its thing, it'll be even better. It's a very strategic way of making sure that people, even in the cheap seats way, way back, can hear every word that you've got to say. Let the water, let the topography work for you. So he's going to get a boat, going to put off a little bit of away from the shore, and let the water do its work. For he had healed many, with the result that all those who had afflictions pressed around him in order to touch him. Again, that's why he needs the breathing space. And Mark is pretty clear here. They're not necessarily wanting to see him to hear what he has to say. They're there because he can do something for them. It's indisputable at this point of the gospel story that he's a miracle worker. Of course, the question is always, as you're reading the story, what conclusions should you come to regarding the fact that he's a miracle worker? What should you draw from Jesus' miracles, from his exorcisms, from his healings, coupled with his teaching? The teaching, remember, was designed to inform the miracles, the healings, all of the spectacular stuff was there to punctuate the message. But the people were not showing up for the message. They're not showing up for the main course. They were there for the punctuation, the miracles that validated the teaching. So Yeshua wanted to make sure that everyone could participate and understand what he actually was there for, which was to proclaim the coming kingdom of God. Whenever the unclean spirits saw him, look at the assumption there. What are the assumptions? That there are unclean spirits, that the unclean spirits can communicate through the people they possess, and that they communicated directly with Yeshua unabashedly. But whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they would fall down before him and shout, "You are the Son of God." Now, that shouldn't surprise anybody by this point, because we have seen throughout the gospel thus far, and we're only midway through the third chapter. We saw chapter 1, verse 1, kicks off with Mark himself saying that this is the good news about Yeshua, the Messiah, the Son of God. From the very first verse, the author lays out his cards on the table and says, here's who I think the protagonist is. Here's who I know the protagonist, who the star of the book is. I'm identifying him so that you know that whether you accept him as what I claim or not, you know where I stand, which is that Yeshua is the Son of God. And we have then, following that, we saw God the Father and the Spirit manifest and identify Yeshua as the Son of God. We've seen Satan, remember, in the temptations. I'm talking about the wilderness temptations, not the, my girl, my, right? Not those temptations. But we saw, you're the Son of God, right? He's identifying Yeshua as Son of God. We have seen the demons in various encounters, exorcisms, identifying Yeshua as the Son of God. So everybody is brother to this point, whether they're wearing yarmulkes or whether they're carrying pitchforks and have tails, are identifying Yeshua as the Son of God. The question always comes back, though, to the reader. Who do you say Yeshua is? Well, we have the demons say he's the Son of God. So another way of saying, okay, he's the Messiah. Not identifying him on an ontological basis, saying, okay, your DNA is exactly that of God as your essence. No, simply saying that he is bears the character of God. When we see you, we see the character of God. And Yeshua earnestly warned them not to tell them who he was, to keep quiet. Remember, this is not a secret. If it was a secret, his identity is a secret. It's the worst kept secret in the history of the world, right? It's worse than, putting on a pair of glasses and saying, look at me, I'm in a disguise, right? Nobody can possibly know that I don't have the glasses, right? All right, good. If it's from me, tell them I'll be done in a moment. But nobody could see, had ever done what Yeshua could do in Israel. And now, with this, we have this little parenthesis. I'm going to end this here. Now, I have dominoes. Now, the way we have dominoes, remember that Mark is not written in a chronological fashion. It's pasted together, copy-pasted, and various different themes are connected together, right? Just like you would do with dominoes, okay? I got a 5 over here, I got a 5 over here, I connect them together, right? I got a 2 over here, a 2 over here, I'll connect them together, right? You get the 2 Sabbath. I told you I'm out, but I will be here, I will be done momentarily, all right? If I'm out looking for lunch, I already have plans, all right? So Mark is matching up the 5s, matching up the 2s. We saw him do it with the Shabbat, and we see him now doing it with this story here. What is the connection between the demons identifying him as the Son of God and this next little section? It's not a parenthesis, it's connected. And he went up on the mountain, which is a very big leap if you're on a boat. This is a different time. Right? He went up on a mountain and he summoned those whom he himself wanted. And they came to him. I want you to notice that phrase. He summoned those whom he himself wanted. You know, in ancient Israel, students would identify the rabbi for whom they wanted to be the groupie. It was called the Talmudim, students. And they would apply. Where are you staying? And the rabbi, if he would say, but the initiator was the student. Right? Rabbis did not go hand selecting their students. They waited for the students to come to them. But Jesus looks in the crowd. He's been teaching for some time. We've already seen Yeshua call 5 disciples already. We've seen Peter and Andrew, a pair of brothers. Another pair of brothers, James and John, business partners in the fishing business together. And remember, we met the tax collector, Matthew, Levi. We've seen 5. We haven't seen the entire list. Why did Jesus want the guys he's going to call? Were they more handsome? Were they taller? Were they more masculine, more macho? Then the other followers around who also wanted to be Yeshua's disciples. What about them? As a reader, I'm curious. As the story unfolds, we begin to see what it is about the followers of Yeshua that caused him to call them. And they came to him. You see, he called, summoned those whom he himself wanted. And they came to him. Why did they come to him? Because when Yeshua calls, no one can refuse that call. That's how I know that wasn't Yeshua calling, because we refused it, right? Yeshua makes these guys that we're going to list off an offer they can't refuse. That was invented not by Mario Puzo. That was invented by Jesus. Making an offer you can't refuse. Right? And he appointed 12, just 12. So that they would be with him, they could send them out to preach, and they'd have authority to cast out the demons. There's 3 reasons that's given here. 3 reasons, besides the fact that these are the guys he wanted, and he wanted whom he wanted. What's the point? What's he appointing them to? First thing, to be with him. Second thing, to delegate preaching authority to them. Third thing, to back up that preaching, to validate the preaching with miracles, right? So cast out the demons. So he calls himself those he wanted, and he appointed. Who is the active person in this story? Who is the active participant in creating this school, this grouping? He is the one. He appointed 12. Why 12? You may ask, what is the significance of 12? Well, it is a round number. It's divisible by 2. It's a pretty good number as numbers go. It's not the loneliest number you'll ever do. That's 2. 1. There were 12 tribes of Israel. And to whom had Jesus been proclaiming? Israel. About what? The coming kingdom of God. If we have a messianic age where Israel's the head, the chief of nations, there are 12 tribes, and we're going to need 1 representative, 1 delegate for each tribe. If Jesus is there, then, well, how come we just don't need 11, right? Jesus makes 12. Why do we need 12? Jesus actually together makes 13. That's an odd number. But Jesus, Yeshua, literally is the head and shoulders above the others in a unique category of his own. He's not just a member of Israel. He's the king of Israel. And he's appointing representatives for each tribe. He's not just another appointee. What was the purpose of the appointment for them in the immediate future? We have this delicious purpose statement. What is their purpose statement? So that, thank you, Mark, for being so generous with purpose statements throughout the Gospel of Mark, so that 1, 2, and 3, they would be with him, and he would delegate their authority to preach and back up that preaching with that authority, right? The message that Jesus had been preaching, that he wanted to get out, was messianic age. The kingdom of God. Sends him out to preach, because he can only preach so much. And he keeps getting interrupted. He keeps getting surrounded by people who want healing, who want something from him, instead of just listening and absorbing the teaching. So if he can delegate authority and send the delegates because they've been with him, then he can multiply the message. You know, there's always been a lot of talk every time a new president comes in. Every time a new governor comes in, every time there's a new, especially president, and he's picking out his cabinet, right? For a decade or more, it has been the habitual chatter to say, well, he needs to pick people who are representative of the nation? Will he pick proportional representation? Does the cabinet, in other words, need to look like America or to act like America? Are there too many white guys in there? Does he have enough black guys? Does he have enough redheads? There's never enough redheads. They always get disproportionately maligned. We have Asians. Do we have the right kind of Asians? You've got Asia. You've got East Asia. You've got India. And if we want to really represent America, do we have to have the nutcases as well? Do we have the smart people, the nutcases, the whole Jesus is not listening to that kind of chatter, neither should a president. Pick the right people for the right job. I can tell you right now, every one of Jesus' choices as a disciple was a Jewish guy. It's the way it is, right? Jewish guy. Did they reflect Israel? Yeah, sufficiently. Did he have to have somebody I want somebody from the Pharisees, somebody from the Sadducees, I'll take a Herodian. That didn't come into question. Let's see. Who did he choose? He appointed the 12. Simon. Simon is in a category and a verse by himself, to whom he gave the name Peter. He is the premier apostle. He always is listed separately, first and separate from everybody else. He is the apostle of apostles, the premier, the first among equals. And ultimately, he is the author of the Gospel of Mark, right? The one who collected the stories that Mark is comprised. Mark is the one who collected Peter's stories, right? Simon, the one whom Yeshua will give the name Rock, Peter. It is, in Matthew, we see that it's Peter who identifies Yeshua as Messiah the first among the apostles. He had spiritual insight and wound up leading the apostles after Yeshua had been exalted, as we studied extensively in our year plus through the book of Acts. Well, who else? That's just one. We got 11 to go. And James, the son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James. We met these two brothers. They're fishing partners with Simon and Andrew, right? And he gave the name Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. When I see you, just like when people see me, they see the characteristics of God in human flesh. When I see you, I see noise and boisterous energy. Sons of thunder, right? We look back and we say, these are interesting nicknames. Remember President President George W. Bush. One of his things was everybody had a nickname, right? Brownie, and there was this one and that one. Everybody was given a nickname, right? All the press had names, whatever. Yeshua is a nickname guy too. Peter's not Peter's name. Simon is his name, Shimon. But I'm going to call you Peter, right? Because when I look at you, I see a rock. And James and John, you're the sons of thunder. Not to mention that they should be like Thor. No, they're loud. They make a lot of noise. And Andrew, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew, and Thomas, and James, the son of Alphaeus, there's another James in there, and Thaddeus, and Shimon, the zealot, right? How come Andrew doesn't get a nickname? Apparently only the inner circle, James and John and Peter, get nicknames, right? Now, we've met these guys before, so we have businessmen, we have a tax collector, we have he's a collaborator with Rome. It's a very diverse cabinet that Yeshua is assembling here. And now, Simon the Zealot, you got a radical. You're choosing a radical to be with you? You got a collaborator with Rome, and you have a radical against Rome, Shimon the Zealot, a political firebrand. Followers of Messiah? Well, if they're representing Israel, we have indeed a diverse group. Jewish people are not monolithic, right? not one lump as a group. We're a diverse group. And Yeshua assembled a diverse group to represent the nation of Israel. And not confusing true diversity, the diversity that is your strength, are people with different backgrounds and different ideas. Not whether or not their hair is brown, blonde, eyes are blue or black, skin is darker or lighter. That's not the diversity that Yeshua uses. Right? And now, let's not forget the last guy who also has a verse of his own. Judas, the man from Kariot, who betrayed him. Spoiler alert, by the way. I'm sorry to have done that, but that's not my fault. That's Mark. So, as we fast forward 2,000 years, we see those whom Yeshua had pointed to be the 12. He's finished calling his apostles, but he isn't finished calling his disciples. If you are his, if he has called you, it's because he wanted you. Same way he called the apostles, he has called you. And we love him because he first loved us. Yeshua died for us. Mark recorded these nicknames. They're cool. Peter and Sons of Thunder, right? And Yeshua said, I need men such as you. My apostles, Peter, are going to need backbone. They're going to need grit. And they're going to need insight. So you are Peter. James and John, I'm going to need some boisterous guys who are going to be mixing things up here. It's not going to be an easy road. I'm not looking for the meek and the mild. So I called James. And I called John. Now, Yeshua has called you. If you were writing a modern-day gospel, would Yeshua give you a nickname? What would that nickname be? I wonder. It's a good time when you think about whether that nickname might be a good one or, that's a kind of an indictment, backhanded compliment. This is a good time to examine how you've been walking as a believer and what direction and with what velocity you are traveling in service of the Messiah. I spend a lot of time saying, as the reader, always ask the question, who is Jesus? Who is Jesus to you? But what if instead of asking, who do you say Yeshua is, we instead, who does Yeshua say you are? You ever think about that? Who does Yeshua say that you are? Now, don't conflate what your father may have told you. You'll never amount for anything, and say that must be the voice of God. You won't amount to anything, you're never going to be attractive enough, you're never going to work hard enough. Why can't you be like your older brother? Why can't you be like your neighbor, your friend? People have told us a lot of stuff about ourselves over the years. And sometimes we take those statements as the voice of God. But bottom line, if you belong to Jesus, if you belong to Yeshua, it's simply because he wanted you. Not because you're the most handsome, not because you're the most macho, not because you're the most this or that, right? What characteristic do you have that can take you forward, that can, in a nutshell, characterize your walk and capitalize on those characteristics to multiply the ministry to which he's entrusted you? Are you, it'd be a terrible thing to be, hi, I'm Jane, the gossiper. No, that's not a nickname you want. You know what a good nickname would be? Jane the servant. Jane the friendly. Jane the daughter of benevolence. Jane the, I'm picking Jane just because. I don't think we have a Jane in here. Who are you to Yeshua? Who is Yeshua to you? And who are you to Yeshua? Ponder that over lunch and over the next few days until we see one another again. Let's stand for the Aaronic benediction.